soy is commonly seen as a healthy and environmentally friendly meat-free alternative. But is this actually even true? What is soy even used for in society other than the commonly known tofu and soy sauce? Because firstly, soy isn't really that environmentally friendly at all. If you imagine a crop field, to plant soy, you basically have to destroy like everything and then start planting the soy. Get rid of every single bit of other wildlife that exists inside of that planned soy plantation and then plant the soy. And I guess that kind of applies to a lot of different crops, but a lot of crop fields are a lot more biodiverse than soy crops. And then once you've planted the soy crops, all of it's going to be sprayed with a whole bunch of probably quite bad pesticides compared to other crops that are more biodiverse in a weird sort of sense. These pesticides are literally giving humans an unfair advantage. If you imagine a video game where you've got some guy just hacking and being able to do all like this random thing, that is essentially what pesticides are to humans. These like little insects and these little things that like literally cannot live inside of this area because it's so pesticide concentrated. It's literally an unfair advantage to humans, and it's such a bad thing for biodiversity compared to just other normal crops such as like fruit. But because soy is a crop that's in such high demand, it has to be grown in different places all over the world, which may not be the environments and temperatures where it's naturally suited to, and there may be certain pests inside of this environment which are very good at targeting soy and will completely destroy it. So all these areas have to be completely cleared of that bug, even though it's the soy that's not supposed to be there in the first place, rather than the pest. And it's completely screwing with the food chains and the biodiversity of this environment. And as I mentioned before, because soy has such a high demand and you have to clear the land completely before you decide to plant anything, soy plantations cause a lot of deforestation because it's in such high demand. A lot of new soy plantations are being made, and this requires in certain places just the complete wipeout of certain forests. And it's a bit similar like the whole palm oil thing. Palm plantations in Indonesia have wiped out a lot of biodiversity and a lot of forests. And it's basically a similar sort of story with soy. But why does soy have such a high demand? What actually is the reason for that? Soy doesn't exactly have a lot of uses inside of the food industry. You've got tofu, soy sauce, and maybe some like edamame, and that's literally it. There's no other foods that soy is often used in unless it's like incredibly ultra processed and has like some soybean paste or whatever randomly added in a tiny quantity. But soy's main use is to feed animals. Its main use is as animal feedstock. And because soy is quite bad for biodiversity, a lot of pesticides are involved and stuff, a lot of deforestation. Because it's then a lot of this deforestation and pesticide use is caused by soy's demand for feedstock. The reason that meat is seen as quite an environmentally unfriendly thing is because of the fact that soy is used as feedstock, even though soy itself is seen as an environmentally friendly meat-free alternative. But if soy was just used for food, then it might actually be more environmentally friendly than meat. But because it's used as feedstock, it's actually the reason that meat can be considered quite environmentally unfriendly. It's a very weird, paradoxical situation. But if meat such as cows and pigs were sort of left to graze and they were grass-fed, like high-quality meat is generally grass-fed, right? That is the environment that these cows and pigs, when they eat grass, that is the kind of food that is the most nutritious and the most utilizable for them. But if they're not eating grass and they're being fed soy, which is a bit of a unknown food for them, it's not, the meat itself isn't going to be that high quality, but it makes the actual grazing of the cows cheaper. Because if you think about intensive farming and stuff, like where you've got loads of cows in the stables, and it's not like you have to have big fields for them so they can graze. You just keep them in stables and give them like tofu and soy and moldy grains and stuff like that. And it makes the costs for whoever is running that like cow farm a lot cheaper, and that is because the demand for meat is so high as well. So they have to sort of not use fields and they have to use the stables. But there really are some uses of meat that are entirely useless. If all meat was grass-fed, allowed to graze, not done in this intensive farming situation, it would probably be better for the environment. But there would have to be less cows So there would have to be less meat in total on the planet. Maybe if we get rid of the uses for processed meat, such as McDonald's burgers, for instance, just get rid of McDonald's and the world will 100% be a better place. That is an unequivocal fact, I swear to God. Just get rid of McDonald's, get rid of the demand for meat on that, get rid of the demand for meat for like sausages, for pigs, and that means that meat can actually be better for the environment because it doesn't need all this soy being fed to it. It doesn't require all this intensive farming which releases a lot of CO2. So it's not necessarily the meat itself that is so bad for the environment. It is the fact that there is so much meat that means it's so bad for the environment. But is soy even really healthy for you? Soy contains a lot of compounds known as phytoestrogens, which are estrogenic, and that means they fit into estrogen receptors and cause your cellular signaling processes to be more sort of estrogen dominant in a way. If you think of the phrase soy boy, right, where you develop sort of more like a woman because of your lifestyle and your environment, like compared to a man, even though you are biologically, soy literally makes you more likely to be a soy boy. And maybe there's something I'm missing here. Maybe this is actually a really commonly known fact and I genuinely thought it wasn't. But that was quite funny to me when I was doing this research and thought about that. But yeah, it contains a lot of estrogenic compounds, and then when we ingest soy ourselves as a healthy meat-free alternative, that then makes us more estrogen dominant. And I've spoken a lot about the effects of estrogen dominance: higher rates of breast cancer, higher rates of infertility, and just general obesity. I think I said infertility, but that is basically the most important one. Lack of drive because of low testosterone, things like, erectile dysfunction causes infertility, etc., etc. A lot of these estrogenic compounds essentially just boils down to causing infertility, but as well as that, you've got all the other effects of low testosterone as well, which are all quite bad. But to be honest, I really don't eat soy at all. Like, I don't have soy as a main component in my diet. But the way that I would have soy inside of me would be if soy that was fed to meat, would be that if soy was then fed to cows and these cows absorbed all these estrogenic compounds and then they were in the meat that I was eating, I'm still sort of ingesting like at least a proportion of these compounds compared to what was. So that would be a way that you or me, even if we don't eat soy, would actually be ingesting soy. And as I say, that's why I think soy shouldn't be fed to animals, and maybe if we reduce the demand for meat, we don't have to use intensive farming and we can just let animals be healthy. And how do we reduce the demand? Literally just get rid of McDonald's. I swear any societal problem can be boiled down to get rid of McDonald's. Simple as that, to be honest. So to be honest, something isn't necessarily healthier for you just because it is meat-free. If you think of poison berries, you wouldn't just go eating them just because they're meat-free. It's like, there is logic. You can't eat all vegetables. Some vegetables would kill you in like one way or another. So it's not just because it's meat-free. That's the reason. Meat has like a lot of uses and a lot of dietary benefits. So I feel like that's a bit of a misinformed view to make from maybe a lack of evidence and a lack of research and information to do with soy out there. With that, I recommend subscribing for more content like this, and have a good day.